You feel more sure of yourself, and you dare to try more. So yes, Asdin Alaya is a feminist.
It's really important for me. I work in the service of women. I want them to be the most beautiful women in the history of fashion and in the history of women. I work for women without even thinking about fashion or trends. All I'm aiming to do is to dress them beautifully. I want to raise them up.
As a young man in Tunisia, he learned the art of couture with his sisters. After arriving in Paris in the 1950s, he spent a number of days at the Dior studio, then a few months at Guy Laroche. By the end of the next decade, he was a working couturier, dressing the likes of Greta Garbo. His artfully constructed pieces soon became iconic and were infinitely copied.
You know, people get really confused these days, when they talk about fashion designers. The vast majority of fashion designers are stylists. They don't know how to make dresses. They don't stay there and there's stitching and sewing the thing by themselves like Azzedine. He knows how to build these creations. He's a designer, a true designer.
In September 2013, it was Paris's turn to host the designer, with Alaya's work exhibited in both the Palais Galliera and at the famous Matisse Room at the city's Museum of Modern Art. Azzedine Alaya never had any formal fashion training, although he did study sculpture back in Tunis as a teenager.
I think he creates kind of sculptures that really come to life on a woman's body, with the most fanatical attention to detail, extraordinary technique, a real understanding of the properties of fabric, and the fabric could be galusha or leather or knit or silk taffeta or chiffon. He's really an artist in clothing.
Alaya embarked on his international career in New York in 1980. He was embraced by the American fashion world immediately, but never lost his rebellious spirit. In Paris, he revealed his latest collections at his home in the Marais. Not for him the grand backdrops preferred by many of his contemporaries. For Alaya, the only thing that really mattered were the clothes.
He uses materials that are truly unique. That's extremely rare. No one knows how to invent new materials these days. I really think that Azzedine is the only one doing it. The way he constructs his clothes, it's like the fabrics melt into each other, like they've been melted directly onto the models. That's what makes them so unique. You don't know how they're constructed. That's really magical.
Alaya always valued his artistic independence. He was wary of journalists and only rarely gave interviews. Those who speak most revealingly about his work are the women who loved his clothes.
It's like a second skin. His clothes are like a second skin on a woman's body. He really makes women feel loved, understood. He's utterly wonderful.
The designer sought inspiration everywhere. He loved Marie Antoinette and vintage French cinema, but also admired his fellow designers, Dior, Balenciaga and Schiaparelli in particular. Azzedine Alaya was an artist's artist who also cared deeply about collaboration.
He just finished his runway show. We congratulated him. And then he asked us all out to dinner. And that's what Asdine's all about. He loves spending his evenings talking to people, being curious. He's extremely curious. He loves meeting people in a truly honest way.
Over the course of a 50-year career, Azzedine Alaya's openness, courage and skill made him an icon in the world of fashion. His name a byword for a powerful and sensual understanding of style.
Encore, presented by